tonight. So hi everyone, it's Michelle Christie, the Program Manager. I look after the TAE qualification, and this is our January's training Talkfest. It's the 11th of January and it's 6 o'clock at night. I just thought before I get started and we can have a chat about any questions you might have about the course, I just thought I'd do a little bit of a short presentation for you first about what it's like to work in an RTO. So I'm just going to share my screen. You should be able to see my PowerPoint. Can everyone see my PowerPoint okay? Now everyone's unmuted at the moment, so you can freely talk and ask me questions as this is a training Talkfest. So you can either write a note in the chat function, ask a question, or you can just actively chat.
Hi, Michelle, Jerry here.
Hi,
I
Jerry,
can see
how
you.
are you?
Good, thank you.
That's good. You got a question?
Not at the moment. Do you want to go with your PowerPoint first?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's somebody else just arriving as well. So I just thought I'd give you a bit of an idea of what it's like to work in an RTO, or what working in an RTO is about. Okay, so what is an RTO? So an RTO, or Registered Training Organisation, is a training provider. Now, we're either registered by ASCO or the state regulator. I've got a bit of background noise and I'm not sure who can give a bit of feedback.
Is it me? Is it me? Michelle, it's Leanne.
Might just check. I'm just going to mute you just to see. Now, if I start talking, can I hear feedback? No, I can't. Leanne, I'm just going to mute you for the moment. If you have a question, just whack your hand up or write me a question. I will unmute you at a later stage. It's just a little bit of feedback and it's a little bit distracting for me. So bear with us. We'll go through this presentation and then we'll have an open conversation with everyone. So Registered Training Organisation, either registered by ASPA, which is our national regulator, or a state regulator. And we deliver vocational education and training. So RTOs, we're recognised as providers and we can offer nationally recognised training qualifications and accredited courses. There's actually around 5,000 RTOs according to the ASPA website. And the complete list of RTOs can be found at training.gov, which is our main website. Brilliant website, talks about all the training packages and all the RTOs, who's got what on scope, accredited courses, skill sets, unit of competency. It's a website I have open all day, every day, because I use it all the time. So that there's quite a lot of RTOs out there, surprisingly. And each training organisation will differ in their size, in the types of training programs that they offer to the different clients that they actually train. So there is a lot of variance in what an RTO can actually, the type of RTO you might work for might differ greatly. So why would we be a registered training organisation? So only RTOs can offer nationally recognised training. So if we're looking at the training packages in any of the study periods that we're working through, they have to be delivered by an RTO. That's not to say that maybe your workplace can't partner with an RTO, but ultimately the RTO is registered to deliver the training and they would be issuing the qualification or the statement of attainment at the end. It also means that the RTO can actually apply for funding. There's actually quite a few different types of funding available. Australia's actually really lucky in that the Australian government does throw a lot of money into training. And there will be things like traineeships and apprenticeships, which you might have heard of before. And that's where someone can undertake training while they're working in their own workplace. So that's a big lot of funding, but there's also other tenders that are available to help with skill sets, and even with the vet fee help, which is a big thing that's happening in the, I'm not sure if you've read anything about it in the media of late. So there was availability for students who are undertaking diploma level qualifications to put the cost of that training into, say, a HECS debt. There's obviously been a lot of issues surrounding that type of funding, and it's actually cost us taxpayers a lot of money because of it. So there's a lot of different funding. Some of it's good, but it's all very different, and each state and territory can offer very different funding, just depending on skills that need to be addressed in that particular state or territory. Other than that, RTOs can offer qualifications at the following level. So we can do a Certificate 1, 2, 3 and a Cert 4. We can do Advanced Diploma and Diplomas. And so we've got AQF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you've got the Vocational Graduate Certificate and Vocational Graduate Diploma. So we're looking at AQF levels 7 and 8. So that's where there's a little bit, when you're looking at the AQF, there's a little bit of crossover from secondary schooling to vocational education to tertiary. So at an AQF 7 and 8, we are starting to punch into tertiary territory, but there are specific training packages or qualifications that relate to the AQF 7 and 8. Now, who works in an RTO? We actually have, it's just like a normal business. Oh, getting a bit of feedback again. I might just mute everyone for the moment, and I will unmute you after my little presentation. So an RTO is just like a normal business. There are lots of different managers and teams that function or operate within an RTO. So obviously you might have a CEO, a managing director, or maybe you've got a board of executives that outline the strategic plan and the mission and values of the business. From there, you would have the training team. So you might have like an RTO manager, a training manager, a program manager, which is what I am, a course coordinator or a director of studies. And underneath them, you'll have trainers and assessors. Now, you've obviously enrolled in the TAE course, and I'm assuming you're wanting to be potentially a trainer or an assessor in the future, which is fantastic. So that would be the team that you might belong to. From there, we've got the compliance team. So we've got the compliance manager, they might deal with some funding, and they've got the compliance team. And they look after the overall operations of the business. You've got the course design team, so the manager and their team, looking at course development. You might have a sales and a project team, and they might be doing client liaison or making sure that the products that we actually service to clients are meeting a certain project. You'd have your administrative team, so you've got your admin, you've got learning support, you've got IT. They all assist the operations of the RTO. From there, you're going to have HR. HR belongs to any type of business. Now, this might be a whole team. It might just be one person. It really depends on how big the RTO actually is. So usually you have a HR manager, and they're looking at different policies and procedures relating to recruitment and talent acquisition and all that side of things. And then you got your finance team. So they're looking at payroll, they're looking at annual leave, paying invoices, so accounts receivable and that kind of thing. So just like a normal business, but obviously the teams look a little bit different maybe from the company that you work for right now. Ooh. Okay, so to let you know about the admin team, this is a really key function. They will assist trainers and assessors or even course designers like yourselves into the roles that you might be moving into. And they'll be helping students with things like their unique student identifier, with RPL submissions, with credit transfer requests, with disability or LLN issues. They might help with extensions, deferments, financial issues, cancellations, study period releases, and so many more things. As a trainer or as a program manager, I find or have found in the past, working with the admin team is very vital. And you really need to build a strong relationship with them, because in times of crisis or issues, these are the people that are going to help you. So if you do start working in an RTO, or you are, it's always good to get to know your admin team, because they will help you with any student issues that you might encounter. We've got a learning support team at OC, but there are other RTOs that also do the same. Some do, some don't. So the learning support officers help with student engagement. So they'll help with orientating new students. They might help with academic writing. They might help with re-engaging inactive students, or helping students that are at risk. From there, you've got your training manager. So it might be a training manager, an RTO manager, program manager, course coordinator, or director of studies. Tell you what, this is my role, and we juggle a lot. We lead the team. We've got trainers and assessors who are busy training and assessing, and there's a constant stream of things that will occur on any given day. And we need to make sure that, the student experience is a good one. So we will look at things like implementing student engagement strategies. We'll look at, issue cases, like disabilities or extensions, or student complaints or appeals, all that kind of thing. We will plan and prepare face-to-face workshops. We will organise validation moderations. We will, just trying to think of what else I do on any given day. We'll sit in a lot of meetings. Basically, there's a lot of management. And so your manager, if you're a trainer and assessor, will basically let you know what you need to do on any given day, and you'll be reporting to them. And so that relationship's really vital. But they'll be doing a lot of the stuff where you might be, if you're face-to-face specifically, you might be out on the road a lot, so you might not see your manager a lot, but you might be on the phone with them constantly, as I was with my previous role. So trainers. Okay, so the trainer will actually facilitate the training, whether that be face-to-face, so you might be going into workplaces, or you might be going to a classroom, or you might actually be conducting training online. You might need to develop or even contextualize learning content, so things like PowerPoints, handouts, activities, workbooks on occasion. You'll be looking at helping with initiatives for students that are at risk, and managing student inquiries. It's a fantastic role. I really enjoy the trainer side of being in an RTO. It's a really rewarding position to be in, because you're actually affecting students, you're transmitting information, and ultimately helping them reach their career goals. Leanne's just asked a question, and I might just unmute her for the moment. She just asked, what is the best learning for PowerPoint?
Yeah, is there a course, or where is it best held, or best to do the course at?
Oh, okay. So to learn how to create PowerPoints?
Yeah, because I've never used it before.
Okay. I actually did a Certificate 3 in Business Administration.
Business and admin, yeah.
And there's a unit in there about creating PowerPoints.
Okay.
I'll find the unit for you, Leanne, and send it through. And I found that very handy.
What certificate is that?
I did a certificate 3 in business administration, but it's a generic unit in business that will be in a few different qualifications.
Okay.
Additionally to that, I actually did a non-accredited course through another business, and they were actually doing advanced PowerPoint skills. So they were showing things like
Okay.
how to add graphics and animations and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So there are a few different businesses that are available to do that. Additionally to that, I also
Yeah.
have a session with Apple because they've got a version of PowerPoint which is called Keynote. And so I was learning
What's it called again?
Keynote.
Say that again.
Keynote.
Okay. Keynote.
I'll send it to everyone. So it's called Keynote.
Keynote. Okay.
So it's just the Apple version of PowerPoint.
Apple version.
Yeah.
And do you have business administration online learning?
Yes, we do. At Open Colleges, we have it online. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So you would recommend it, obviously, for
Yeah.
this kind of work that we're doing, instructional design.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely helps. You know, all the tricks that you can take will help you be a better trainer. In some of the roles that I have had as in an RTO, I've had to create content. So from PowerPoints to activities and that kind of thing. So the more skills I have in being able to manipulate Word documents or PowerPoints or even Excel spreadsheets is really handy.
Okay, so you said there's 8 units in the course
No,
in
I'm
the
saying
business.
A unit, one. A unit.
A unit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah.
So I'll find you that unit of competency. I can send that through to
Oh,
you.
no worries.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay. All right, I might just mute you again, Leanne.
No worries.
Okay, so if anyone else has got questions, feel free to send me a message as I go through the PowerPoint. I'm happy to have a chat with you. So trainers, great role to have. From there, there's also an assessor role. Now, a workplace assessor will actually visit workplaces, especially if you're a workplace assessor. An assessor might just do assessments, but via distance. So it might be a face-to-face or a distance or an online role that you would undertake. And you'll actually conduct assessments with a candidate. Now, a candidate is actually a person undertaking an assessment. So if you are being trained, you are called a student or a learner. If you are about to undertake an assessment, then you are called a candidate. I know it's just a funny word, but it kind of defines which stage a person or a student or a learner might be at, if that makes sense. Now, a workplace assessor or an assessor would be responsible for inducting or supporting workplace supervisors. They'll actually conduct the assessment. So as an assessor, I might go into I was a retail trainer assessor before, so I might go into a retail shopping centre and I might go and observe somebody use the till or serve a customer. I might ask them questions about it, so I'll conduct oral questioning. I might ask them for some portfolio evidence that they've collected beforehand. I might obtain a third-party report from a supervisor. And I grab all this evidence together, and then I have to make a determination as to whether this candidate's actually competent or not yet competent. Or if it's against an instrument, then it's satisfactory, not yet satisfactory. And so I fill out paperwork as the assessor, and you give that feedback to students. So if you've ever done an assessment at Open Colleges, it would say something like, this is what you did well, this is what you need to do to improve, this is what you need to do to resubmit. Each RTO has slightly different feedback forms, but they're pretty standard. Basically, you're trying to figure out, is the student demonstrating the right skills and knowledge to prove their competency? Then you need to fill out some paperwork. And that's either uploaded into the student management or learning management system. So we have two different systems in an RTO. One is a student management system, so it'll have all the student profiles and documents in there. And then you got your learning management system. So where you can access open space, that is a learning management system or a learning platform. And then we have to be able to give that paperwork to someone or in system, so that in the event of an audit, we can go back and say, this particular candidate was assessed on this date and they were deemed competent, and here's the evidence to prove it. Obviously, we have to follow confidentiality and privacy, so the documentation that we actually keep records of or archive need to be dealt with in a specific way. And I can assure you that there are only certain people who could actually look at your assessments. Okay, so then we have the trainer and assessor. And now you might actually have both roles, where you would be going out and doing training, and you might be going out and doing assessing, hopefully not on the same day. Sonia's got a question about legal and ethical requirements. I'll just get you to park that for the moment, because we will go into that very shortly. So there's a course designer. Now the course designer will actually create the learning program, the learning materials. So they'll liaise with the various stakeholders, as according to the org chart I showed you before. They might liaise with clients, they might conduct that training needs analysis, they'll develop learning programs, create learning and assessment materials, review the documentation, and then improve the learning and assessment materials. It's its own role, and that's what they'll do all day, every day. So we've got a big team of course designers at OC, and that is what they do. They will liaise with people like myself to look at improving or developing new courses. From there, we have compliance. This team will actually make sure that the RTO operates in accordance to our vet quality framework, or the RTO standards 2015 is a big one. So they'll create and implement policies, procedures. They'll manage our scope of registration, so they'll make sure, A, we're registered, B, that if we've got any audits coming up, whether that be face-to-face or desktop, that's all sorted, and they'll do remove or add products to scope. They'll deal with the tending funders, or the funding tenders, other way around. So if we wanted to be able to offer a traineeship in Queensland, in a diploma of hospitality, for example, the compliance team would actually fill out the documentation so that we could be approved to actually run traineeships or apprenticeships in different states. And they'll actually conduct an internal audit. So they'll do checks and make sure, do I have the right trainers on allocated? Are we filling out documentation properly? Are we following policy and procedure? That kind of thing. So they're pretty important people to keep around. Now, just to give you a bit of context about vet regulation, we are really heavily regulated. As you'd probably be aware in the media, there's a lot of scrutiny going on in the vet industry, and there's just oddballs out there that potentially aren't doing the right thing. Now, I've worked in a compliance background before, and the RTO standards really aren't that hard to meet. And if you make it part of your everyday operations, it's really not a big deal. So there are, and I'm not sure about your workplaces, but I'm sure you know of places that go, oh, we're about to be re-regulated, we're being re-accredited. So we need to make sure that everything's up to scratch. From an RTO standpoint, this is not best practice at all. You want to make sure that the compliance side of things are an ongoing thing. So RTO is actually registered. We are registered to a regulator, either by state or national. So we've got ASCOT, it's our national regulator, and they look after basically any RTO that operates in every state except for WA and Victoria. Victoria and WA, they like to do things their own way. So back in 10 or 11, I think, 2011, ASQA was implemented, and a lot of the states like South Australia and New South Wales and ACT jumped on board and they went to ASCA straight away. Queensland took a little bit of extra time, but Victoria and WA put their foot in the ground and they've remained in the ground ever since, and they've been able to operate as state regulators. So if you're an RTO, depending on where the RTO's original state of origin began, that's where your regulator might belong to. Now, if you're an RTO and you were operating in Victoria or WA, but you weren't just operating in those states, you had, let's say a campus in a different state, then you would have to abide by the national regulator. So it actually does change around a little bit. Leanne just has another question, so I might just unmute her. Leanne, you're asking
Hi, Michelle.
transcripts.
Transcripts, yeah.
What do you mean?
Is that what we're talking about?
No, so do
Um,
you mean when it comes to regulation?
yeah, regulation with your certificates. Like I did my apprenticeship 19 years ago,
Yes.
and the RTO doesn't no longer operate.
Yes.
And I tried to get information transcripts from them, and they no longer have my transcripts because they don't keep. They should keep it for 30 years plus. Is that correct?
Yes. So that actually probably that ruling came out probably after you got your transcript. So
Okay.
that actually ruling comes from the AQTF, and the AQTF was originally endorsed in 2002 or 2004.
Okay.
So from there we had the AQTF 10, and then we've moved to the SNR standards and the RTO standards 2015. So potentially back then when you actually got your transcript, the RTO didn't have that requirement, but that requirement is actually now. So if you get a qualification or a statement of attainment, the RTO does need to keep that for 30 years. Now, in the event of...
So the USI number,
yes.
will that come into effect with my certificate 3 in hairdressing?
It depends on...
depends
on when you receive...
Will they find it?
No, they won't find it. So it's not retrospective. It's just from what you receive now, from now onwards.
I understand.
So, for example, I did my certificate 3 in business administration about 7 years ago. So they wouldn't find that on my USI. But if I did a new version, let's say I did certificate 4 in business administration tomorrow, then it would be on my USI and I would be able to see that in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did find a copy, though, of a document from Delta, the Training Apprenticeship Board, with some sort of documentation of my certificate on there.
Sure.
So I managed to find that,
In the event that an RTO does actually dissolve or that becomes cancelled or withdrawn from regulation, I think ASQA actually does have a holding pattern where all that documentation needs to go somewhere. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what does happen. Because RTOs do stop being registered regularly, so it does happen. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all right. Okay, so we've got the RTO regulation and we've got the RTO standards. So as I just said, we had the AQTF, and that was the standards that came out, I think it was back in 2002, and we had a couple of versions of that. Now, the reason we had the AQTF is back in the day we used to have state regulation. So RTOs could be registered in Queensland, others would be in New South Wales, others would be in Western Australia, and each state regulator would do things slightly different. And it was a bit confusing, especially if you have funding tenders in different states, or if you've gone from one RTO to another, you kind of have to get used to that state regulator's way of doing things. So when the ASQA came out and started to nationalise the system, they brought out what was called the S&R standards, so the standards of the national regulator. Now, these were pretty much carbon copies of the AQTF. So the only difference was the numbering system. So, for example, in the AQTF, it might have been clause 1.4. In the S&R standards, it was 15.4. Exact same information, but the numbering system had changed. As of last year, though, all RTOs, regardless of regulating, now have to abide by the RTO standards 2015. What does that mean? There's been a few changes from the original AQTF. The numbering system has changed once again, but majority of the standards from the original stand. And these standards relate to things like finance management, so how much money can we actually accept on enrolment, or what percentage. What qualified people can we allocate as trainers and assessors? What does an RPL or credit transfer mean? What kind of information should we be obtaining on enrolment? How should we be issuing qualifications? There's a lot of things that relate to those standards, but as I said, if it'll be in all the policies and procedures in the RTO that you work in, and if you've got a good compliance team and compliance manager, they'll be making sure that you're adhering to these RTO standards every single day. Now, I just thought I'd give you a quick snapshot of one of the standards. So we've got the RTO standards, clause 1.13 to 1.6, which used to be the clause 1.4 in the AQTF or 15.4 in the S&R standards. And this relates to trainers and assessors. So I thought this was relevant because you are undertaking the TAE course. So if you wanted to be a trainer in an RTO, you need to have TAE 40110, so the qualification you're undertaking right now, or its successor. So if a new training package was endorsed tomorrow, we would either accept a TAE 40110, or let's say it was the TAE 40116, or whatever it's going to be. It could be TAE 40120, who knows. Or you can have a diploma or higher in adult education. So for myself, I actually have a diploma of training design and development. So that's a diploma TAE. I'm actually working on a graduate certificate or graduate diploma in language literacy and numeracy practice. That's also in adult education, so that would also be accepted. Or I also have a bachelor's degree in training and development. So any one of those three qualifications or degrees would be accepted under the RTO standards. Obviously, I have TAE 40110, but I also have higher to cover me. That's not to say if you've just got TAE, that is perfectly fine under the standards. If you're an assessor, you either need the assessor skill set. So there are 3 units of competency from the TAE. They're actually currently being held in study period 3 and 4. So one is planning assessment activities, one is participating in validation and assess competence. So if you have those 3 units, or you have your full TAE as an assessor, that's perfect. You also need vocational competence. So you need to have qualifications in what you train and assess. So for example, I used to be a retail trainer. Now I have a certificate 2, 3 and 4 in community pharmacy. And these units are exactly the same as the units used in retail. So I'm actually able to train in retail at a certificate 2, 3 and 4 level. You need to have current industry skills relating to the training and assessment that you provide. So being a trainer is not current industry skills. You actually need to go back into your industry and do work placement or volunteer days or work part-time in both. What that meant for me, if I was a full-time trainer, I'd actually go into a pharmacy or a retail store at the specified time each year and actually do current days. Reason for it is industry keeps updating and it keeps us current. So it also helps us teach learners about what's happening in industry. We also need current knowledge and skills in vocational education. So we need to know about how to train, how to assess, what's the RTO standards 2015, You know, what's the newest technology that relates to e-learning. You know, we keep keeping up to date, and we also need to make sure that we undertake constant professional development. So that's actually quite a lot there. What you would do as a trainer or assessor is you would map to this information when you start employment at an RTO, and it would probably be looked at periodically. And when I mean periodically, it might be every 6 to 12 months where you need to check, you know, is your TAE still current? Is your qualification still fine? Do you need to go into industry? That kind of thing. So it's something that we look at pretty heavily as a trainer or assessor in an RTO. Now, we had a question about ethics and legalities. Now, obviously we have the RTO standards. We also need to make sure that we operate ethically. And we have to consider both the needs of the learners and the industries that we actually train in. So as a trainer, assessor, course designer, or even a program manager like myself, we need to be aware of different ethnic issues. We have things like copyright. You know, I can't just go and rip something online and not cite it or pretend to use it like I created it. That's a bit of an issue. We have privacy laws. So you might be my students now, but I can't go to a dinner party tomorrow and talk about, you know, I trained this particular person and this is what they're doing. I have to abide by confidentiality. So it would be the same as if I had a client that I was dealing with. You know, I can't necessarily say, well, I'm training this particular client and here's their information. We've got different vocational education acts that need to be abided by. So we have things like the Traineeship Act. We have different skills gaps that need to be addressed as well. We've got security of information. So if I'm at my computer and I'm working on a student profile or something in a student management system, let's say I need to go to lunch, I'd make sure that I locked off my computer so nobody else could go in and change that. I need to make sure that, you know, as I said, everything that is used is kept confidential. Plagiarism is a big one. We need to make sure that students don't plagiarize, that there actually is competency-based assessment. So I need to make sure as a trainer or assessor that the students are actually doing their own work and that they actually have the knowledge and skills that we've trained them in. We have to know about training packages and competency standards. The training packages are very definitive. They give you a lot of information. We kind of have to use that as the Bible in what we're using. There might be licensing requirements. Now, this isn't for every training package. There are a few training packages out there that you might require a license for. We have industry and workplace requirements. So we have to think about what's best for the entire industry that we are actually training, but also for the clients that we're training, what are their workplace requirements? We have a duty of care, so we need to make sure that any training and assessing that occurs is done in a safe way, that recording information is kept confidentiality, that we aren't discriminative, that industry awards or enterprise agreements are adhered to, that we've got workplace health and safety or occupational health and safety, and there's conflicts of interest. So there's actually quite a lot to be aware of, but a lot of these ethics would be embedded into policies and procedures because they do pertain to different standards within the R2 Standards 2015. Now, over to you guys. Questions. I'm going to unmute everybody and we can have a general chat about whatever you like. Everyone is going to be in different study periods. So, floor is yours. What would you like to have a chat about?
Hi, Michelle. Jerry here.
Hi, Jerry.
I just posted a question about the formative assessments
Yep.
that are part of SP1.
Yes.
I I've done one of those. I haven't finished the other two.
That's okay.
Because I've been doing my proper assessments.
Great.
I just wondered whether one has to do those to complete the SP1.
You don't actually. They're there for your learning. It's a bit of a practice before you do your final assessment. So if you're already working on your final assessments and you haven't done all the formative assessments, don't worry. They're not assessed. It's really just for a peer review. So if you find that it's easier just to read the workbook and then move on to the final assessments, that is perfectly fine. Once you've completed the final assessments in study period 1, study period 2 will be opened up for you automatically. You can move on.
Yeah, good, thanks.
That's okay.
I've got a question. Oh, sorry.
That's right. We had Leanne and Sonia. Who would like to go first?
Sonia, you can go first. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. I have a question regarding study period 3. I'm working through the assessment, the first assignment, and I'm just not quite sure what to include in the legal, organisational and ethics requirements matrix.
Okay. Have you looked at the PowerPoint in study period 3 about legal and ethical requirements?
Yes.
So you need to have a think about all of those things I've mentioned in the PowerPoint. How might they impact on the assessment that you're actually developing?
Okay.
So, for example,
do I have to find the documentation from the RTO to show how they or their policy, or is this all just from my my knowledge?
Yeah, this is you just explaining how you think this might impact on the assessment. So, for example, RTO scope. We know that an RTO can only train and assess what they have on scope. Now, what that means is they've actually applied to ASQA or their state regulator to say that they've got certain training qualifications on their registration. Now, if I'm developing an assessment, I need to make sure that we're registered to actually train and assess that particular qualification or that unit of competency. Because if we don't, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then all I really would need to do is to put a few dot points for each requirement on how that relates to the assessment.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, that one. I do have another question, but I'll let Leanne go in first as well.
Sure. Okay.
Are you sure? Okay. I'm stuck. I'm halfway through it, I think, and I need to confirm this. My design tool plan for study period 3, 3006702.
Okay, so you're doing the RPL assessment plan. Yep.
Yep. I'm integrating it again.
Okay.
Because it requires a language and it requires literacy and numeracy in the mapping document. In my mapping document, in the BSB SUS 201A.
Participate in sustainable work practices. Yep.
Yeah. It says there holistically it needs to be integrated with another unit of competency.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if I have to use FISC or I use another BSB unit of competency. It needs to be integrated.
Okay, hang on.
So
go to training.gov and check that. BSB, I thought you could actually, the BSB SUS 201, I think you can actually deliver that on its own.
I can, even if it's got language.
So you're integrating the two units together?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look. All right, I just went to training.gov. Everyone wondering what I was just doing. So if we go down the bottom,
it comes to the performance, the foundation skills. Oh yeah.
I can't see anywhere there that it says it has to be clustered. So you should be able to assess that unit standalone. But if you're using an FSK unit, then potentially you do have to cluster the two units together.
Okay. Because it says on the, I'll tell you where it says it.
Is it in the FSK unit?
No, it's in the BSB unit. BSB unit.
Are you using 201 or 201A?
I'm using 201A.
Okay.
It's got here in the required skills, literacy, numeracy, and technology skills to interpret workplace information in relation to work role and to the document and measure resource use.
Yes. But what that's saying is that the student actually, or the candidate actually needs literacy, numeracy, and technology skills to look at workplace information. That doesn't necessarily say it has to be clustered with a
integrated.
No.
No, so it's not integrated.
No.
No. Okay. No, I was just stuck there. And
if you look at that, if you look at the criteria, if you have a look at the performance criteria, it's saying things like identify workplace environmental resource issue, identify resources used in the workplace, document.
Okay.
These tasks are actually language literacy and numeracy issues.
Okay. Because I've got a project brief. I don't know if you saw it online. A project brief, and I've got all this information content.
Yes.
So it's one of my design tools.
Yes.
Then I've got a checklist.
Okay.
So now I've got to develop another direct questioning tool for the language, for the literacy and numeracy part of the...
I'd probably suggest just to stick to one unit, clustering two.
I'm not going to do that, no.
I'd probably just stick with the BSUS 201A unit and develop your assessment instruments that relate to this unit. And I'd keep the language literacy out of it.
Okay.
Otherwise,
so just develop some written questions and answers, written questions.
Yes.
On literacy and numeracy.
No. So you do on these. You're doing it on these performance criteria.
From the performance criteria. Yeah. Okay. I understand.
So focus on the sustainability unit, not the language literacy.
Okay.
And if we looked at this assessment, so you might have an oral questioning. I'd probably suggest a portfolio, and you might want to do a third-party report.
All right. So for the are you talking about this assessment, 02 portfolio, not a project?
You could do a project. You might get them to actually do a efficiency test in the workplace, whether that be checking their energy efficiency or wastage, paper usage, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I did write down. I didn't add the other tool in, but I did write down like a skills test, on the information that I've got in the project brief.
Sure.
On infectionist, infection and sharps and stuff like that. Public Health and Wellbeing Act, the Environment Protection.
Sure.
Yeah. Is it conservation?
Yeah.
Conservation? Yeah. So I've got all of that in the brief.
Okay.
But I just need to develop another tool, and I thought I had to integrate it. That's all.
No, yeah. I stick to one unit because when you cluster 2 units or more together, it's double the time frame where you've got to map. You've got to make sure that all units of competency are met. And for this assessment, it's really not necessary to cluster 2 units. So I just with this sustainability unit, and I'd not worry about the language, literacy, numeracy unit.
So I'll go through the performance criteria, and I'll develop contextualize. Sorry.
Yep. So for 3006-702, make sure you've made sure you've hit all of the performance criteria, the required skills, the required knowledge, and your critical aspects. So when you've got your mapped document, everything should be ticked off. You should make sure you've hit every single one of those aspects at least once, hopefully even twice.
Okay. All right. Done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask another question about the study period 3 assessment? I just wanted to get some clarification about the benchmarks for assessment, and can I use basically the performance criteria and the dimensions of competency and employability skills, or is it slightly different to that? It seems like I'm doing the same thing many times in many different sections of the assessment. I'm just wondering if I've doubled up somewhere.
Okay, so for 3006-6B/01 or 02, you're actually developing an assessment plan. So it'll actually outline the blueprint of what assessment will occur in the future. So when is it happening? What's the unit of competency? Who's involved? What methods and instruments have you chosen? And then from there, you're developing a simple assessment instrument. So for 3006-6B/01, I usually recommend to students to either create a written Q&A or a oral questioning instrument or an observation. Now, I've actually created or I found a few different templates that are blank. They're in the news forum that you can use. And all you would do is grab it, add your questions or activities or tasks and amend it and format it as if it's your own. You might add headers and footers, images, pictures, change fonts and colours, whatever you want to do with it. It's your template, so that's your bare bones, and you're actually developing an instrument around that. For 3006-6B/02, I'd suggest to create a portfolio checklist because it does relate to an RPL. Now, when it comes to these assessments, you will develop your plan, you'll create a draft assessment, then you'll want to get it trialed. So you'll actually want to go and speak to somebody else and say, can I test this with you? So if it was an oral questioning tool, you might say, I'm just going to ask you some questions, can you answer it? And if something, you might be reading the question out and going, oh, that's not right. You'd be getting feedback on how easy it was to actually use. You might get feedback from, say, a subject matter expert or another trainer or someone else just to see, does that instrument look good? Does it work? Is there any issues with it? And you'll be getting that feedback. So that's your trial assessment tool. And then you'd be...
Okay, just with that, I'm not actually in an RTO at the moment, so is there another way that I can review it for this assessment purpose?
Yes, so you can give it to somebody else and just say, can you check this? I'm not a subject matter expert in a lot of things, and I have course designers or trainers come up to me and say, can you check my work? And usually I can see, well, that's grammatically wrong, or that question doesn't flow before that question, or that needed a question mark, or change that question slightly. So someone that is good with English is good. And you can ask somebody else. It might be a family member or a friend. Just say, can I test this with you? They don't have to understand your subject content, but you can just say, work with me here. Let's see if this actually works.
Okay.
From there, you amend your tool. So let's say someone had said to you, on that cover page, we want the font to be, bigger, or question 1 just says question. We want it to say question 1, or there's not enough section for somebody to write their answers, so can you add some extra lines? Any type of feedback they give you, amend the tool again, or sorry, instrument again, and that is your final version.
Okay. All right. And so is there basically a template or something that we can use for the benchmarks for assessment, or is that integrated into
your benchmarks
another part?
Your unit of competency. So you just need to choose a unit, and that's what we're using for. So, for example, I've got this BSBS unit on the screen. So let's say I chose this unit as my benchmark. I'm designing an assessment plan around this sustainability unit, and I'm going to be designing an assessment instrument around this unit. So what I'd be looking at is, who's my target learners, how might they be assessed, what instruments would I include, is this going to be contextualized, what methods am I going to use, what resources are required to assess this unit, and I'd be putting that into my plan. Then let's say I'm doing a written questioning tool. I would grab one of the templates. So if I go to study period 3, which we'll do right now, I'll go to the news forum. Okay, I've got Mohammed's put a forum post here for me, and it's got a whole heap of different templates. So I can pull one of those up and use those bare bones. And then I'd be looking at, let's say I'm doing oral questioning. Okay, I'd look at element number 1 and go, right, what questions can I ask? So performance criteria talks about identifying workplace environmental and resource efficiency issues. So I might write a question about what type of resource efficiencies or issues can occur in the workplace. Or what resources do you use in your workplace or in your own role? How do you measure current usage of resources? So I'm actually reworking the performance criteria into questions.
Okay.
So that's how I'm using the benchmark to create my assessment tool or instrument.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Michelle, I think that's it for me.
Okay, no worries. We'll talk again soon.
I'm like nearly done in that study period, so yeah, it's been good fun.
And have I given you access to study period 4?
Yeah, I've got that.
That's right. I was thinking I had done that, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah. So have a good night, and I'll catch you.
I know. Keep well.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Now, I've got a message from, it says waiting for name. I don't have your name. And you said that you're starting, you started out.
Yeah, my name is Michelle too, with one L.
Michelle, hello. We share a name, it's great.
Yes.
You just started in the course.
Yes, I was very eager. I'm still eager, but I started in October and had some family issues. So it's
Okay.
only now I'm kind of putting my head into it.
Okay.
Uh, I understand I had to finish the course by end of September or
Okay.
beginning of October.
Sure.
So what I like to understand is what's the best way for me. I've downloaded the documents and materials because
Okay.
I'm on holiday, so I'm
Sure.
planning to read them.
Yep.
What is the best approach or traps I should not fall into so I can progress smoothly
Okay.
and meet all the SP in during the as per the timeline?
Okay. So my suggestion, the bare minimum, would be to read the workbooks and then get started on
Uh,
final assessments. So, for example,
which Yes,
so can you see I've got study period 1 opened right now on the screen?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So for study period 1, there's 2 workbooks right here. So read one, then read the second one, and then go to the
Oh, okay. Sorry, which one is the which book? I've seen the learning materials.
Yep. So where it says student workbook, that's what I'd be
Oh,
suggesting
oh,
to
oh,
read.
okay. Yep, okay.
So just read both of the student workbooks in study period 1 and then go straight to the assessments. Now, don't worry about the activities. Don't worry about the formative assessments. You will learn throughout the assessment process as well. There's a lot of things that you'll actually practice and go through as you're undertaking the assessments.
Okay.
Now, if you think you've done everything satisfactorily, submit it for assessment. So go to the upload section and press on the submit button. If it's not 100%, it's okay. The assessor will give you feedback, and then you'll be given an opportunity to resubmit. So you know exactly what to do to fix it up.
Oh, okay.
It
And
happens.
what's the duration usually to complete SP1?
Okay, so what I usually suggest to students, because it's a 12-month course and there's 10
Yes.
units of competency, you'd probably want to try and finish a unit a month. So technically within the first 2 months, you'd want to finish study period 1. Now, obviously, you're a little bit over that, and that's okay because it does allow for a little bit of time to be spent. Study period 1 is probably our hardest to do. So whilst it might take you a little bit longer, you'll find that in another study period, it'll be a bit quicker for you.
Okay, so 2 months for SP1.
Yeah.
Is that about 10 hours per week or 20 hours per week to
Look,
complete all the?
suggested for 10 hours a week. Being that you are a little bit behind, maybe
Yes.
you increase your hours temporarily just to get back on track, and then you'd reduce your hours back to 10 hours a week.
Okay, so if I put about 15 to 20 the first 2 months, I should be able to catch up.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and this is including the electives?
Yes, absolutely. So even though you might see that there's actually 9 study periods,
Yes.
study period 1 to 4 are core. They're mandatory. You have to do them. But study
Yes.
period 5 to 9 are the electives. So it really just depends
Yes.
on the electives you've chosen. You might only need to do 5 or 6 study periods.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. And can we do more than 2 electives and pay extra or?
You'd probably need to check that with student support. I'm actually not been asked that question before.
Yeah, I'm looking at electives and I'm not sure. I'm interested in free actually. So
Sure.
I'll be asking the advisors as well while I'll put myself, who am I and everything, so they can advise me there.
I usually suggest to students wait until you get into study period 4 before you fill out the form. The reason for it,
Good. Yes.
the reason for it is study period 1 is all about course design. Study period 2 is about conducting training, and study period 4 is about assessing competence. So by the time you're getting into study period 4, you'll see where your skill strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and it'll give you an idea of one thing you need to know is how much time you've got left. So what can you physically do in the time frame you've got left? But 2 is do you want to actually address any more gaps that you think you've got? or do you just want to be able to complete a couple of assessments and submit? So by the time you get to study period 4, you'll have clarity on what electives would be best.
Oh, excellent. And this is what is very helpful. So therefore, because I was downloading some electives information, so I can put that aside and just
for the moment.
start reading my materials and student book and all this.
Now, keep in mind, when you're reading your materials or you're working through assessments, myself and Mohammed, we're here to help you. So you can contact us anytime. Do you know how to message us?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. Yes. So you can send us a message whenever you need to, and don't ever think don't ever be ashamed to ask a question, because sometimes students ask really good questions and we think, oh, that's really good. I hadn't thought of that before. And we might actually put it in the forum, or we might create a resource to help students. We want you to have clarity. So please, we are your teachers. If you're in the classroom, you'd be putting your hand up and asking questions. So sending us a message is exactly the same thing. So don't ever be embarrassed to ask us a question, because we want you to have clarity.
Thank you, and that's what I really appreciate. So I hope my head will keep getting in there, because I really want to make that a beautiful success in my next career.
Now, we do actually conduct regular online tutorials. So this session happens once a month, and we have sessions that relate to each study period as well. So if you have questions you want to ask us, online, bring as many questions as you like. You can attend as many times as you like. We have people that do attend regularly, like Leanne. I've been talking to her for a very long time. So I feel, a great connection with her, and hopefully we'll feel the same as well. So, feel free to come to these sessions when they're scheduled.
Yes, definitely. But do you still have some SP1 students, or?
Yeah, definitely. We have students starting in study period 1 pretty much every single day. So
good.
Because study period 1.
Yeah, I would love to attend some more of those sessions for the SP1 students to see what they're feeling and relate to them.
Yeah, well, study period 1 tutorials are usually pretty popular because we do have a lot of students in study period 1. So you can come and talk and everyone will be talking about the same assessment or the same content. So
well, how is the best way for me to find when the SP1? Is it in the student space?
Yep. So if you go into social space and you look at the calendar, we've got upcoming events, and you can click and see next Tuesday is a study period 1 tutorial, and them at least once a month, and then you can look over. I'm at the moment scheduling in study period, February, so you can see the upcoming there as well. Within a couple of days, the calendar will be full for the next 6 months, so you'll be able to see any sessions that are coming up.
Yeah, I've got this one. Thank you very much. It was very, very interesting.
Great. Thank you for attending.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Michelle.
And Samantha, did you have any questions tonight? Samantha, did you have any questions? No? Well, I might finish off this session. It was... sorry.
Her mic is...
Oh, I can hear you. Sam, if you talk again, I heard you. Oh, okay. You're new and happy with listening. Do you have any questions? If you want to type it in, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. fantastic. Most of them were answered. We do, as I said, mentioned, we do have another session next Tuesday, which is relating specifically to study period 1. So if you've read the workbook in the meantime, and you've got questions about the workbook, or you want to talk about the formative assessments or even the actual assessment requirements, we will definitely talk about those in more depth the next week. Sometimes we go from task 1 to task 10, or no, it's more than that, in study period 1 assessments, and we'll go through what's required in each template. So I'm glad you're saying you're coming. So I look forward to seeing you there. I'll be conducting a session next week. So have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye-bye.
Welcome. Bye, Sam. So that's it for our Trading Talkfest this Tuesday, the 11th of Jan. We'll be conducting another session next month. Just to let everybody know, the online sessions are moving from Tuesday nights to Thursday nights in February. Thursdays or Wednesday or Thursday nights. So have a look in the Social Space calendar to see the upcoming sessions in the next few days. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.